Spiritual gigolos, hello. What a short video this is going to be. How could you have a spiritual gigolo? You're either a gigolo or you're not a gigolo. But let me share this with you in love. We have had, interestingly, a few spiritual gigolos back in the monastery when I was a young monk. Not in the novitiate, but certainly in our monastic houses and our hospitals, where we had a lot of young monks running around doing God's work. And you'd always find a person of the opposite sex who had the hots for one of the monks. The ones who had the hots for me were usually coming up to retirement. So that said a lot about me being a boring old monk. But however, one young monk, whose name I won't repeat, but we kept saying to him, this nurse only wants to be on the shift that you're on. And she was forever having fake epileptic fits. So he would obviously reach down and do all the emergency first aid. But she wasn't having one, but she enjoyed the mouse to mouse. But let me tell you, even in our little community, the Teo community, we've experienced two spiritual gigolos. One who tried it on was one of the oblates. She had this obsessive personality where she loved younger men. And she thought that I wasn't aware of what was going on, but I guess I've been round the block a few times and I've fallen over many suitcases and many nurses' handbags as a trained nurse. And having worked with women all my life in the nursing profession, I became aware of how the female mentality works. And I would rather work with women than men, because there's such a fun. But when they get the hots for someone, hell hath no fury like that of a woman scorned. And in our community, in the early days, we were privileged to watch the antics, the games that some individuals would play in the community to try and get the attraction of one or two of our younger men. And being a mixed-sexed community, although we don't all live together, we embrace the monastic life from our own home. But when we come together every month, it's interesting to see who's falling in love with who. And it's so sad, because those of us who gather have chosen the celibate life, and some are married. But this one particular person, my word, she taught me a thing or two about feminine charm. And then I would say to her, I said, do you realize what you're doing? What do you mean? Well, I do like younger men. I said, but not in this community, you don't. You're actually leading this person astray with your antics. I said, you're an oblate. So, but thankfully they resigned. But then latterly, we encountered a problem. And it wasn't a problem initially, but a lovely young man came to join our community. Well, he was interested in becoming a monastic, but he's really a hermit. The most talented musician. And what I discovered was he was being stalked by a professed member. And I thought, if I share this with anybody, they think that I'm possessed. But I shared it with one or two in confidence, and we began to just sit back and observe and see where this leads. And true enough, we had a situation there a few months ago where on our live stream channel, we would have various presenters who would give up their time, and this particular person started demanding where is the rota so that she could see when this person was on. And because we happened to say, I'm sorry, but you're not privileged to that information. And then the tirade began, and why not? Who's given this authority? And not wishing to name names, but what a situation where you have to challenge someone you love and respected and have known for some time and say to them, do you realize that you're stalking this particular person? We already lost one member who had the potential of becoming a great community member. But because this person had a position of influence in the community, they were afraid of their life because this person was stalking them on the internet, and it was very, very painful. And the person themselves has not taken responsibility for this. All we get is an apology, I'm sorry. But that's not good enough. One has to oversee a community and run it from a place of love, but be wise and not allow spiritual gigolos insist on having their own way. So monastic communities are not exempt. They're not exempt from love affairs. But I have no issue with members falling in love. But they have to do one of two things. If they're espoused to God as brides of Christ, and they've taken vows, then they have to do the honourable thing and be released from their vows, and then pursue a life together. I'm not here to step on anybody's toes and says you can't do this. But sometimes when a spiritual gigolo is hot on the tail of another, it takes a lot of courage and guts to be able to stop them in their tracks, and often you can't, because they have a dysfunctional personality where they don't see that what they're doing is wrong. It's like an illness, but you have to safeguard the integrity. And I've seen it in churches, not necessarily, I've seen it in monasteries, but I've also seen it in our local parish church in Liverpool, in Manchester, and when I was working in Chicago. You'd have these young women swaying and swooning in the pews at the young priest who just joined the parish. They were salivating. Oh, it was hilarious to watch. And the young priests, some of them loved it. Oh yes, they milked it for all it's worth. But if a young priest or pastor becomes the victim of a stalker and tries to challenge them, like I did this particular person, your life becomes a living nightmare. Because rather than they be truthful and say that what they did was wrong, or what they're doing is wrong, they go behind your back and they enlist their disciples. They create a clique who aren't privileged to the truth or the facts. And then before long, you have two camps at war. And it creates a seedbed of discontent, and it can actually bring a parish, a community down to its knees, as I have found to my own cost in our little community. But spiritual gigolos are fun people to be around, but not in a monastic community or in a church, synagogue or temple. They're a lethal weapon. Forget about Mel Gibson and Lethal Weapon 1, 2 and 3. These are lethal weapons, and when unleashed, they have no interest in anything you say other than to get their bait. It's like a fisherman going fishing. He wants a catch. So pray for spiritual gigolos. And if you're single, be on your guard and mind your step. Bless you.